Hello, friends. Okay, now I'm going to read chapter 4. So just to make a moment, and I will bring it up. There we are. All right, so chapter 4, the execution of the policy of expulsion and the problem of Western clans. How was expulsionism realized? Until this point, we have mainly considered Joi expulsionism from the ideological and theoretical viewpoints. Why did the winds of joy blow so violently in the Bakumatsu period? To find the reason, we need to examine the foreign awareness, Taigai Ninshiki, of Japanese in the whole of the Edo era. In the first place, in addition to the feeling within Japanese of East Asian expulsionism, which was caused by Sinocentrism, Kai Shiso, the threat of Russia in the north became the direct trigger for a sudden awareness of defending the country and maritime defense. The crystallization of all this was joy. Now I want to turn to the question of, in fact, how and to what extent the joy of the Bakumatsu was realized. Together with that, I want to consider carefully what kind of influence joy had on the government of the time. In fact, these points are surprisingly not well known. In this chapter, I want to confirm the process by which joy was realized and clarify the unknown facts of the realization of joy by the Western clans. Within this, I want to clarify the situation and cause of the strife, kakushitsu, between the Choshu and Kokura clans, which was a kind of proxy war, dairi senso, between the imperial court, Chote, and the shogunate, Bakufu. Furthermore, I will discuss again in chapter 5 in detail the Choyo Maru incident, Choyo Maru Jiken, which brought tensions between the two clans to a peak and developed into strife between the Bakufu and the Choshu clan, and which occurred just before the outbreak of the coup d'etat, Seihen, of August 18th, 1863, Bunkyu 3. The Bakufu was driven to execution of the policy of expulsion. I want to begin by discussing the specific circumstances which led to the realization of joy. The treaties of commerce were signed between Japan and various other nations in 1858, Ansei 5. After this, the court adopted joy, abandonment of the treaties, joyaku haki, while the shogunate adopted opening the country, acceptance of the treaties, joyaku yonin, and national policy, kokuze, external policy, taigai hoshin. They were completely divided into two opposing sides, and so the chaos of the Bakumatsu began. Then the Sakurada Gate incident, Sakurada Mongai no Hen, occurred in early 1860, in which the extraordinary dictator Ii Naosuke was assassinated, and the Bakufu realized that the use of armed force, buryoku, as a shield to conduct an overbearing, goinna, management of politics, seiji unei, was unreasonable, muri. So the Bakufu began to search for a way to reconciliation with the court, Yuwa Rosen. This was the so-called Union of Court and Shogunate, Kobugattai. And here's image number 16, part of a picture scroll of Princess Kazunomiya leaving the Kyoto capital for Edo. The greatest result of this was probably the Kazunomiya Koka, Imperial Charter, Chokyo, of 1860, Maien Ichi, Maien 1. By the shogun Iemochi welcoming the younger sister of Emperor Komei into his house as his legal wife, Seishitsu, the Bakufu sought to borrow the authority of the court and extend its own life. However, the compensation price for this was high, and by the scheme of the court official Iwakura Tomomi, 1825 to 1883, within 10 years, the Bakufu were obliged to abandon the commercial treaties and promised to the emperor to execute Joi. On the other hand, in 1861, Bunkyu 1, the Choshu clan embarked on national affairs mediation, Kokuji Shusen, and launched the sea voyages strategy, Kokai Enryakusaku. This was an acceptance of the commercial treaties, but after that it envisaged tributary trade, Choko Boeki. So it was a long-term expulsionism, Mirai Joi Shugi, based precisely on East Asian expulsionist supremacist thinking. However, Emperor Komei wanted to prioritize short-term expulsionism, and so he did not grant an imperial charter to Choshu, and all at once the clan was obliged to push forward with short-term expulsion, Sokuji Joi. Then in 1862, Bunkyu 2, The Choshu clan abandoned the policy of the sea voyages strategy and turned to instant revocation of the treaties, Sokkon Hayaku Joi. It was led and manipulated by Takechi Zuizan, 1829 to 1865, of the Tosa clan and the Tosa Loyalist Party, Tosa Kin-oto, and the central government was swept up totally in the wave of Joi. The court also, starting with Aniga Koji Kin-hisa and lower-ranked vassals who began to control the imperial council, Chogi, at last began to approach the realization of Joi. The court, in order to approach the realization of Joi, sent Sanjo Sanetomi, 1837 to 1891, and Aniga Koji Kin-hisa to Edo, and on December the 5th, at last they forced the shogun Iemochi to decide that Joi was the national policy. In addition, they demanded that he urgently come to Kyoto, and he promised to report the policy of Joi to the emperor for his approval, Somon. There was then no going back for the Bakufu. At that time in Kyoto, assassinations called Heaven's Punishment, Tenchu, were rampant, and the authority of the Bakufu was non-existent. So the Bakufu created a new role of protector of Kyoto, Kyoto Shugo Shoku, and made efforts to restore public order. The first appointee to the role was Lord Daimyo of the Aizu clan, Matsudaira Katamori, 1835 to 1893. Then the instant revocation of the treaties movement began to blow like a gale and storm, Shippu Doto, and in spring of the following year, 1863, Bunkyu 3, it reached boiling point. And here we have image number 17, Sanjo Sanetomi. During this time, the court advocated instant revocation of the treaties and taking back political control from the shogunal family to form the imperial government. The court officials, Teishin, in the imperial council, Chogi, would take over with the creation of a policy organization of national officials, Kokuji Gakari, secretaries, Kokuji Sansei, and recorders, Yoryudo. The Kyoto Gakushuin Academy of the court created freedom to express opinions to superiors, and the recruitment system, Shushi Seido, ensured the acceptance of samurai, Shishi, who were loyal to the emperor, Sonno. And thus, a standing military force of imperial guards was planned. In this turbulent atmosphere, the shogun Iemochi came up to Kyoto on March the 4th and had an audience with the Emperor Kome Tenno, and he confirmed the delegation of government or authority, Taisei Inin, as before. With regard to this, although the emperor himself desired it, his chief advisor, Regent Kanpaku Takatsuka Sukehiro, 1807 to 1879, who was a member of the instant revocation of the treaties faction, while accepting that the great barbarian subduing shogun, Seitai Shogun, had to act as before, stated that in national affairs he had to directly instruct the clans, Shohan e Satasuru, and gave him an imperial rescript, Chokusho, to this effect. By the shogun's coming to Kyoto, the imperial order for expulsion, Ho-chokujoi, was confirmed, but in reality the delegation of government, Taisei Inin, to the shogun was denied, and the duties entrusted to him were limited to those of subduing the barbarians. In other words, his duties as shogun did not extend to the whole of national politics, kokusei zenpan, but were limited to the realization of joi, expulsion. Regarding national politics, apart from joi, they would be ordered by the court, and this caused a contradiction, sogo, for the Bakufu, which until now had been delegated political control over all matters. Again, as regards joi, its limits, kigen, and stratagems, sakuryaku, there was no concrete report, somon, to the emperor from the Bakufu, and furthermore, the court which had appointed the great barbarian subduing shogun had also issued an imperial edict, chokume. After that, orders were issued by both the court and the Bakufu, and the increasingly conflicting and radical orders caused distress for the clans and became the main cause for confusion in the central government. Regarding the limits on the execution of joi, the Bakufu continued to refuse to make a clear statement, but on April 20th, Iemochi was cornered, oitsumirareta, and on May 10th, he reported to the emperor. At first, both the court and the Bakufu proclaimed, if there is an attack by foreign ships, they must be driven away. Kyoto Diary, Joraku Hinamiki. Indeed, although the limit was clearly stated, if interpreted literally, it was ordered that foreign attacks were to be repelled, but a foreign vessel which only came to trade should not be driven away. However, this stratagem was vague from the beginning. Excuse me. The expulsionism of the Tottori domain and the order to expel foreign ships. Just before the court proclaimed the order to expel foreign ships, Muninen Uchiharai Rei, following the Kyushu clan domain, the next clan to carry it out was the Tottori clan. The 12th daimyo of Tottori was Ikeda Yoshinori, 1837 to 1877, who was the 5th son of the daimyo of Mito named Tokugawa Nariaki, 1800 to 1860. He pushed Sonno Joi hard and enjoyed the great trust of the court, and in 1863, Bunkyu III was appointed commander-in-chief of the Osaka Bay Defense, Sekkai Shubi Sotoku, by imperial decree, Chokume, with responsibility for the security of Sekkai, which was Osaka Bay, Osaka One. Although Ikeda Yoshinori defended the Bakufu from beginning to end, Shushi Yogo shita, regarding external problems, he clung to renunciation of the treaties, Hayaku Joi. On June 14th of the same year, the Tottori clan, in execution of Joi, fired 5 live cannon shells at a British ship which had come close to Tempozan, the port of Osaka. The incident arose because the British ship was demanding coal. After this was rejected by Tottori clan members on grounds of security, the British troops returned and began surveying. Though it could not be called an attack or raid, shurai, there were orders, sata, to expel the enemy, and shells were fired. However, no shells hit their target, and the British ship escaped in the direction of Wakayama, Kyushu, Kadaura. This was reported by the Osaka caretaker, representative of the clan, Osaka Rusui Yaku, to the Tottori domain's residence in Kyoto Hante. The reaction in Kyoto was lukewarm, namanurui, but they sent a message to Osaka to urge the execution of Joi. For the Tottori clan, the execution of expulsion or Joi was absolute policy. The caretaker, Rusui Yaku, also reported in the same sense to the keeper of Osaka Castle, Osaka Jodai, who was Okochi Nobuhisa, 1829 to 1888. But was given an official instruction, tashi, to refrain from aggressive actions, rambo na furumai wa hikaeru. However, for the Tottori clan, this would mean disobeying an imperial decree, ichoku, so the instruction was not received. On June the 17th, the clan reported the exchange to the court and others, and also reported that from now on, if a foreign ship was sighted, it would be driven away. Then on June the 18th, the Tottori clan received an imperial edict, chokume, from a liaison officer between the court and Bakufu, a buke tenso, whose job was to transmit petitions from the military retainers to the court and edicts from the court to the retainers, named Nonomiya Sadaisa. He gave the clan an imperial award for expulsion, Joi Hosho, and in addition, the order to expel foreign ships, Muninen Uchiharai Rei, which will be explained later. On June 19th, the clan reported this to the keeper of Osaka Castle. Regarding the punishment of the more than 10 Tottori clan members who had been involved in this matter, according to the clan's diary, Tottori Han Orusuniki, from July 8th, the clan were ordered to restrain them, Osoreiri Sashihikai, by the Osaka Chamberlain, clerk, Banto, Arao Hayata, and the duty officer for clan members, Sawa Sokichi. And since they had hesitated when they had to drive out foreign ships for their misconduct, their retirement, a dismissal should be announced. The nature of the charge, Zaijo, was that when they bombarded the British ship, they had not shown enough accuracy or enthusiasm, tenurukata, but it was a harsh punishment. From this incident, the Tottori clan, whose daimyo was outside the Tokugawa family, Tozama daimyo, and yet had received the Matsudaira name and the shogunal hollyhock crest, which amounted to a significant recognition and acceptance, received severe punishment. On the other hand, the daimyo also apologized, benmei, to the Bakufu, which could not look on idly, the zashi. The difficulty for the Western clans, sandwiched between the orders of the court, chokume, and the shogunate, taimei, and having to obey both of them, can be well imagined. In this situation, the Kyushu clans, which were the main part of the Western clans, decided to obey one authority, and so very naturally they planned the union of court and shogunate, Kobugattai. At the time of the May 10th deadline for the realization of expulsion, joi, the only two domains which had bombarded foreign ships were the Choshu and Tottori clans. The other clans had already been made very aware of the power of the Europeans and Americans, and even if there was an imperial edict, they knew that it could not be achieved easily. But to justify the present expulsionist actions of the Tottori clan, and in view of the isolation of the Choshu clan, in order to move the other clans which had done nothing to expel the foreigners, Sanjo Sanetomi, 1837 to 1891, and other court nobles held an imperial council, Chogi wo Ugokashita. Then, on June the 18th, the liaison officer between court and shogunate, the Buke Tenso Nonomiya Sadaisa, announced the order to expel foreign ships, Muninen Uchiharai Rei. It was a level above the urging of support for the Choshu clan to forcing other clans to realize joi through the order to expel foreign ships. On receipt of this order, the keeper of Osaka Castle, Osaka Jodai, on June the 22nd, cancelled the order given in vain on June the 14th, which had forbidden the bombardment of foreign ships. Furthermore, the order to expel foreign ships also had a significant influence on the domains near Choshu. On the same day, the Hiroshima clan, on June 25th, the Tsuano clan, and on July 28th, the Kurume clan also promised that if foreign ships were attacked in Shimonoseki, they would send troops. The confusion caused by two government edicts, Seirei Nito ga motorashita konran. Regarding the Bakufu's actions, on June 20th, three elders, Inoue Masanao, Mizuno Tadakio, and Matsudaira Nobuyoshi, signed and sent a letter to the keeper of Osaka Castle. According to the analysis of the present situation, in this letter, negotiations regarding the closure of the port of Yokohama were continuing, and before they were completed, if fighting should start by useless bombardments, this would bring national disgrace, given the current state of the nation's defenses. Until this time, the closure of the port of Yokohama had been peacefully dealt with. Of course, if foreign warships attacked, they should be driven out, but careful consideration should be given to whether it was indeed an attack, and if it was clearly one, it was acceptable to drive them away. However, if there was no attack, there should be no aggressive actions, and the various clans charged with the defense of the Bay of Osaka, Sekkai-boe, were ordered to report fully, morosazu satasuru, on the matter. The panic of the elders can be clearly seen here. It was a very roundabout, circumlocutory, mawari kudoi way of expressing matters, iimawashi, but in short, it confirmed the previous order of the shogunate, taimei, forbidding bombardment. And on receipt of this confirmation, the keeper of Osaka Castle on June the 26th passed on the order to the 13 clans charged with the defense of the Bay of Osaka. For the keeper of Osaka Castle, who was part of the shogunate, the confusion caused by conflicting orders, which caused him to change his proclamations 2 or 3 times, it must have been a very awkward situation. These two edicts, fukoku, cannot easily be ignored. Regarding the realization of national policy, kokuze jikko, the court's order to expel foreign ships, Muninen Uchiharai Rei, and the shogunate's negotiations for the closure of Yokohama port, Yokohama Sako Dampan, which were the pretext for the order to expel attacking ships, Shurai Uchiharai Rei, by which expulsion, joi, was to be deferred unless the foreign ship attacked, were in conflict with each other. In fact, they completely contradicted each other, and any observer would have the strong impression that there were two government edicts, Seirei Nito. For this reason, the Fukuoka domain asked the elder Mizuno Tadakio, 1832 to 1884, and other Western clans, including Tokushima, Shimabara, Amagasaki, Oka, Tosa domains, etc., expressed their unease to the Bakufu, or shogunate, the keeper of Osaka Castle, or to the court liaison officer, Buke Tenso, regarding the two edicts, and asked what policy they should adopt from now on. But each authority, court and shogunate, merely repeated their order, and there was no solution to the problem of the conflicting edicts. After this, the two edicts became a pending political question for the Western clans and was a worry regarding their implementation. In particular, there was a severe confrontation between the Choshu clan, which followed the imperial edict, and the Kokura clan, which obeyed the shogunal one. The resulting discord rocked the central government and consequently was one of the main causes leading directly to the August 18th coup, political upheaval or change, Seihen, of 1863. The Western clans were beset by various problems regarding the implementation of joi and were themselves forced to explore the idea of the union of court and shogunate, Kobugattai, as one unifying government order, Seirei Ito. So if the court and shogunate were unified, then there would be only one order instead of two conflicting orders. Okay, sorry, let's continue. The sending of inspectors and the movements of the Western clans. The Western clans were put in a difficult position by the two conflicting government edicts, and the only two clans who actually implemented joi were the Choshu and Tottori clans. Hesitating as to whether to obey the imperial or the shogunal order, almost all clans adopted an opportunistic attitude, hyōrimi-teki na taido, from start to finish. In reality, this was probably the most sensible approach, joshiki-teki na taiyo. But in spite of the court's edict to expel foreign ships, Muninen Uchiharai Rei, expulsion made no progress at all, and Sanjo Sanetomi and the Choshu clan, who were in favor of instant revocation of the treaties, planned on the next step to break this deadlock. On July the 17th, 1863, Bunkyu 3, the national envoy, Kokuji Yoriudo, Higashizono Motoyuki, 1820 to 1883, was sent to Kii province, Wakayama, and Shijo Takauta, 1828 to 1898, was sent to Harima province as inspectors to observe the realization of joi and the speedy execution of the imperial edict. On July 23rd, the protector of Kyoto, Matsudaira Katamori, was given a very strict imperial order by the Buke Tenso Nonomiya Sadaisa and Asukai Masanori, 1825 to 1883. The content of the order noted that even though the execution of joi was frequently ordered, it was not being executed anywhere in the land. On this occasion, inspectors were being sent to Kii province, Kishu Kadaura, and Harima province, Banshu Akashiura, and if the clans continued to look on and shrink from action, as they had done until now, their authority would be forfeited, kai no meshiage, by order. This was to be ordered to all clans. The order took the punishment to another level in stating that those daimyo who did not carry out joi would be deprived of their authority. The Western clans who had until now used the shogunal order, taimei, as a shield to avoid having to execute joi were placed in a very difficult position. Then on July 24th, the same imperial order, chokumei, was communicated to the Tottori, Tokushima, Tokushima, Yonezawa, and Okayama domains. Each clan were to execute the order to realize joi. The sending of inspectors was the application of pressure on the Western domains to carry out joi, and above all, the sending of an inspector to the Kyushu clan, which was one of the three Tokugawa families. Gosanke was a particular humiliation and loss of face for the Bakufu shogunate. That the daimyo of the Tottori clan, Ikeda Yoshinori, 1837 to 1877, and others who were close to the Bakufu, should join a military expedition led by the emperor was the worst possible situation for the Bakufu, and so to prevent this, it was demanded that inspectors be sent. The sending of the inspectors was out of concern for this situation. Regarding this situation, the Choshu clan, which had plotted with Sanjo Sanetomi, had to become the driving force. The Choshu men, Maebara Issei, 1834 to 1876, and Tokiyama Naohachi, 1838 to 1868, were attached to Higashizono, and Sasaki Jiro Shiro and Hori Shingoro were attached to Shijo. The inspectors placed the Western clans in an even more awkward dilemma. In particular, the Tokushima and Akashi domains, as will be explained below, were unavoidably forced to carry out the court's edict to expel foreign ships, Muninen Uchiharai Rei. The distress of the Tokushima and Akashi clans, Kunosuru Tokushima Han to Akashi Han. On July 20th, as will be explained in detail in the next chapter, in order to interrogate the Choshu clan, the shogunal warship Choyo Maru was passing through the Akashi Straits, Akashi Kaikyo, between Akashi on the main island of Honshu and Awaji Island, when it suddenly came under bombardment from the Tokushima clan. This was because the inspector Shijo Takauta had ordered the expulsion of foreign ships, Muninen Uchiharai, and the guards, Shuhei, at Iwaya and Matsuhozaki, on Awaji Island, Awajishima, opened fire. Even though no shells found their target, a minor superintendent, Kobito Metsuke, was sent from the Choyo Maru to the fort to cross-examine the guards. They answered that privately they had been obeying the imperial edict to expel foreign ships and that their daimyo had ordered that foreign ships be driven away. However, one guard denied this and apologized because they had not recognized the Choyo Maru and had fired warning shots, shisha. Also, the commander on the spot, who was a Tokushima clan superintendent, Metsuke, named Nagasaka Teiji, said it was a practice firing drill, keiko uchi, and apologized for the carelessness, buchoho no dan. The confusion at the scene can easily be imagined. Since there had been an apology of sorts, the superintendent ordered that until there was an edict from the shogunate, Taimei, to realize the expulsion of foreigners, they should avoid foolish and blind acts, keikyo modo, and withdraw to all the forts within the domain. He also reported what had occurred to the shogunate, Bakufu. The bombardment had been in obedience to the imperial edict, and it was intended as a demonstration for the inspector Shijo Takauta on the opposite shore and to the court. But it was an undisputed fact that live ammunition had been used. It can be seen here how the Western clans were driven to their wits' end. Seppa tsumatta. Furthermore, on July 23rd, the superintendent Nagasaka committed suicide by his own sword. This was to take responsibility for the attack on the shogunal warship, Bakkan. He felt he had to discharge his heavy responsibility, juyaku, in this way, showing the greatest possible loyalty, shingi, to the Bakufu. But the daimyo of the Tokushima domain, head of the clan, Hanshu, Hachisuka Narihiro, 1821 to 1868, noted on the 25th that as the inspectors, Kansatsushi, Higashizono, and Shijo were going down to Kii and Harima respectively, he was intending to cross over to Awaji Island, and if the situation arose, would bombard foreign ships in accordance with the imperial edict to drive such ships away. And he told the Bakufu this verbally. The confusion caused by the two conflicting edicts is again evident. On the other hand, on July 21st, the Akashi domain were ordered by the inspector Shijo to carry out the imperial order of short-term expulsion, Sokuji Joi Jikko. On the 24th, the domain answered that it would obey this order, but on August the 3rd, it made an inquiry of the shogunal elder Roju Itakura Katsukiyo, 1823 to 1889. The domain respected the shogunal order, Shurai Uchiharai Rei, but on the other hand, it was difficult to be silent, Modashi Gataku, about the imperial order, Muninen Uchiharai Rei, and in some cases, it may have to expel foreign ships. In this case, the shogunal order would be disobeyed, causing great bewilderment and heartache, shintsu. So the domain begged that Itakura would give instructions urgently as to how it should resolve the matter. Caught between the two edicts, the Akashi domain asked the Bakufu what policy it should adopt from now on, but getting no clear answer, both the Tokushima and Akashi domains executed the policy of expulsion. On August the 7th, a warship hoisting the flag of Japan, Nishoki, was discovered, and while the Akashi domain was checking which domain it belonged to, simultaneous bombardment began from all the gun batteries on the Tokushima domain side of the straits, Awaji Island. It was confirmed to be a Choshu domain vessel, and even though the order to cease firing was given, fierce bombardment continued from the Awaji side of the strait, so that even the Akashi clan did not obey the order and opened fire from their Maiko battery, and the Choshu vessel was damaged. But the Choshu vessel, which had been subjected to the bombardment by the two clans, who had thought the vessel was foreign, even though this was a case of executing Joi, could not help lodging a protest. Meanwhile, the inspector Shijo gave a prize, Hosho, to the Tokushima clan envoy for expulsion, and urged the clan to greater efforts verbally. In addition, as regards the damage to the Choshu vessel, Shijo said he would mediate, Torinasu, and the Tokushima clan should not worry about it. The Tokushima clan had become confused regarding the bombardment of the Choyo Maru. But at that time, they had positively executed Joi, and the Akashi clan had been dragged into following them. From the fact that the clans opened fire without confirming whether the vessel was Japanese or not, of the two edicts, it seems clear that the Western clans were tending to place more emphasis on the imperial order. How did the Kyushu clans cope with the two government edicts? Kyushu Shohan wa seirei nito ni dou taiyou shita ka? Regarding national policy in the Bunkyu period, Bunkyu Kokuze, and the two edicts, as will be explained in detail later, the Choshu and Kokura domains clashed sharply and placed the central government in chaos. But the most influential factor in this trend was probably the attitude, doko, of the Western clans, in particular the Kyushu clans. In order to obtain support and further to win over its own faction, Jihajine, each power developed active movements. Another inspector, the court noble Kuge Ogimachi Kintada, 1839 to 1879, was sent to the Choshu domain not only to give an award, hosho, for its expulsion activities, but to press the Fukuoka and Saga clans to implement joi in Nagasaki and to urge the support of the Kyushu clans for the Choshu clan. The shogunate's purpose in sending the Choyo Maru was to make inquiries of the Choshu clan, but also to make a tour of inspection of the Kyushu clans and to demand tokusoku, support of the Kokura clan. So the Bakufu shogunate was also active in collecting information about and obtaining the support of the Kyushu clans. As for the Kyushu clans themselves, they were at a loss, being caught between the back and forth, Shintai, of the imperial edict, Muninen Uchiharai Rei, and the shogunal edict, Shurai Uchiharai Rei. But to resolve this dilemma, the three leading clans of Satsuma, Higo, and Fukuoka came together, strengthened their alliance, planned to reject the faction advocating instant revocation of the treaties, and attempted to advance into the central government. The leader of this alliance of clans was Shimazu Hisamitsu, 1817 to 1887, of the Satsuma domain, and we should investigate his attitude to joi at the time. According to the documents titled Tadayoshiko Shiryo, the Bakufu adopted the policy of joi determined by the court, Hochoku joi. But at that time, there was no shogunal edict, and the negotiations regarding the closure of Yokohama port, Yokohama Sako, were still in progress. Before the result of the negotiations was known, the Choshu clan and other Western clans began to execute the policy of expulsion, which was regarded as a reckless action, bokyo, for which it was beyond debate that the responsibility would rebound on Japan, and Shimazu fiercely criticized this, kitsuku shidan suru. If the foreign countries were discourteous, it was natural to drive them away, but the present situation would cause chaos through foolish acts, guko, and he, Shimazu, warned that this would lead to national disgrace, kokujoku. In this way, he made clear his support for the shogunal edict, Shurai Uchiharai Rei, and severely criticized the imperial edict, Muninen Uchiharai Rei, as acting blindly, modo. This can be understood to be the basic view of the Kyushu clans. Furthermore, the Satsuma clan was on the watch for a revenge attack by British warships after the Namamugi incident of 1862, Namamugi Jiken, which is why they obeyed the shogunal order and did not seek to open hostilities. If the British ships came, they would make the rights and wrongs of the situation clear, and if after that hostilities were commenced by the British, of course they would respect the national policy of joi. For this purpose, the clan said they were making the strictest preparations to fight, and their basic policy could easily be understood. Both forces are mixed or jumbled together, irimidareru ryo seiryoku. The deadline for the execution of joi was fixed as May the 10th, 1863, Bunkyu 3. And after that, the Choshu clan and others began to bombard foreign ships. At first, the Kyushu clans made efforts to understand the situation and just observed it. But after that, two cases of expulsion, joi jikko, occurred in Kyushu. On July the 2nd, the Anglo-Satsuma War, Satsue Senso, which is a very well-known event involving the bombardment of Kagoshima City by the British Navy, occurred. But before that, on June the 20th, the small Nobeoka clan, Nobeoka-han, attacked a Satsuma steamer, Kisen, and this cannot be dismissed as an incidental event. The expulsionist activity, joi jikko, of the Nobeoka domain came about because the Satsuma ship was wrongly identified as a foreign vessel, and the clan was not fired upon, hidan mo shite orazu. Because the Nobeoka clan government apologized, the Satsuma clan ignored the matter, fumon ni fushita. However, many of the Kyushu clans under the two conflicting edicts, Seirei Nito, felt obliged to obey the imperial edict, Chokumei, and this reality cannot be overlooked. For the Satsuma clan, which was aiming at a union of the powerful clans, Yuhan Rengo, it was a great shock to experience expulsionist activity in a neighboring domain. The clan felt the need to gather the opinions of the Kyushu clans as soon as possible and remove the powers asserting the need for instant revocation of the treaties, Sokkon Hayaku Joi, from the central government. To achieve this, Shimazu Hisamitsu was aware that he would have to lead troops up to Kyoto. During this tense period from June the 8th, the Choshu domain sent envoys to the domains of Saga, Higo, Kurume, Satsuma, Yanagawa, and Kokura, requesting support for its expulsionist activity. Taking Satsuma as one example of this, Sakanoue Chusuke, 1818 to 1890, and Akira Atsunosuke, 1811 to 1890, were sent to say that the clan had obeyed Joi at the emperor's pleasure, Joi no eiryo wo jumpo, and had also taken into consideration the imperial expulsionist edict, Hochokujoi, but lacking arms and military strategy could not on its own uphold the Empire of Japan, so it earnestly requested support. They were met by the Satsuma representatives, Okubo Toshimichi, 1830 to 1878, and Shimazu Tonomo, 1829 to 1868, who refused the request for assistance, citing the grave situation of the clan after the Anglo-Satsuma War. On the other hand, on June the 28th, the Kokura clan reported the critical situation with the Choshu clan to the Higo clan, and on July 27th, after the decision by Choshu to follow the imperial edict, Hochokujoi, appealed to the Higo clan to mediate in this difficult situation. Also on July the 5th, the Echizen, now in Fukui Prefecture, clan sent Mitsuoka Hachiro, Yuri Kimimasa, 1829 to 1909, and others to the Higo and Satsuma domains to urge that the Higo daimyo Hosokawa Yoshiyuki and his younger brother Nagaoka Moriyoshi and the Satsuma daimyo Shimazu Mochihisa or Tadayoshi, 1840 to 1897, and his father Shimazu Hisamitsu go up to Kyoto and become involved in national matters, Kokuji ni Ataru. Both forces became intermingled, political activity intensified, and the seriousness of the situation can be sensed. The greatest risk that Japan may become a colony, Nihon ga shokuminshi to naru saidai no kiki. In this tense situation, it was the August 18th coup d'etat, Seihen, which instantly changed everything. This coup was carried out with the agreement of Nakagawa no Miya, also known as Prince Asahiko Shin-o, and other high-level courtiers. It was planned mainly by Satsuma clan members in Kyoto and carried out with the military power of the Aizu clan. Ultimately, it was the decision of Emperor Kome Tenno, and was a kind of personnel reform of the court to promote the execution of Joi. It succeeded in driving out of Kyoto the extreme courtiers, such as Sanjo Sanetomi, who had planned a military expedition led by the emperor to topple the Bakufu, and the Choshu clan, which had stood behind these courtiers as a support. As a result, the extreme form of Joi calmed down, and immediately the Bakufu changed course towards opening the country, Kaikoku. But it was unable to persuade the court, which held fast to expulsion, Joi Jikko. For this reason, the Bakufu had to abandon its aim of closing Yokohama port, Yokohama Sako, and the court and Bakufu shogunate found points of compromise with each other. During this short 3-month period, from the deadline for expulsion of May the 10th until the coup of August 18th, the Western clans were caught between the inconsistency of the imperial and the shogunal edicts and forced to make a choice between them in extremis. The major Joi events of Shimonoseki and Kagoshima Bay are well known to everyone, but in addition, the minor clans such as Tottori, Tokushima, Akashi, and Nobeoka were also obliged to realize Joi in very local places. At this time, Japan, under the two edicts, Seirei Nito, began to see conflicts over the execution of Joi, and they accelerated all at once towards the crisis of civil war, Nairan no Kiki. Furthermore, the threat existed everywhere of possible war with foreign powers, Gaikoku to Senka. In Japanese history, this is the closest that the danger of Japan becoming a colony, shokuminchika, has ever been to reality. Okay, I will stop at this point and continue with another video in the same chapter.